Yeah, man. So I agree with you. Um, it shouldn't be disturbing because it works both ways, right? If you're talking about sharing consciousness, and if you in your question you asked, aren't we all self? If you mean that, do we share consciousness or capable of knowing another, or are we different instantiations of uh, conscious field, unitary field, or is there no separate self? If that's what you mean by are we all self, then I would agree with you. It's not always obvious because we're conditioned to believe the opposite, that we're separate selves. But you can prove it to yourself. It's obvious if you think about it deeply. So, for instance, let's say you're a master guitarist and you're visiting your friend's house, and his cousin is there, who has been practicing for several months, and he wants to play a piece for his family. Meanwhile, you've been playing for 10 years, practicing 2 hours a day, and he plays the piece, and everybody's appropriately pleased with him, and he's pleased with himself because he got through it without choking or messing up. But you know, because you're a master guitarist, you know that you could see exactly where he's struggling and his limitations, right? Because you've had thousands of hours of practice, you've achieved mastery, and you can see where he's at. Now, at that point, you're judging and comparing, so there's a sense of separation. There's this apparent separation. Well, let's say later you're sitting around, you're talking to him, and you begin to ask him, and he tells you about his passion for the guitar and how music has changed his life, and how it's such a struggle, and sometimes he feels for periods at a time that he's not getting anywhere. But once in a while, there's a moment when it all comes together, and it's just in the flow, and it's beautiful. And he tells you about his struggles, and as you listen, something happens, and you know exactly where he's at, because that was you 9 years ago. So there's a blending, because he is you 9 years ago, and you are him, because you're directly experiencing or able to experience what he's experiencing consciously. So, I mean, there's so many examples you could think of that. And consciousness is the same thing. If someone's achieved high order consciousness and he sees someone who's struggling, he can identify consciously with that person. So that action is a type of communion, right? Not have to get too metaphysical about it. It's certainly explainable by science, but yeah, it's the absence of self that we want, that absence of separation, right? When we're one with nature, when we're with our beloved, right? There's this distinct absence of separation, of self, that I'm a separate self. So that's what it's all about, right? Or a big part of it.